Hello and welcome. So this is one of my 60 conversations for my amazing birthday. And today I have got the lovely Amir with me. Well, I say lovely, I don't really know him that well. And I know, I mean,
That's true.
we've had a 2 minute conversation, and kind of what I've seen of him on social media, he seems an all right kind of guy. He inspired me enough for me to reach out, but I just thought it would be great to actually have a conversation with him. I know he's a little bit of a jokester and, a little bit cheeky. Um, I know when we can sometimes get quite serious in our spiritual, endeavors and hunting in this direction. Amir really likes to come along and just kind of poke fun at people and take it, make us not be quite so serious, take ourselves quite so serious. So we
I
want
love that. I love that intro. I love that you said, I actually don't know the guy, but I think he's going to be all right on this
Oh, I
podcast. That
hope
he makes
so.
it. Yeah,
I hope so.
the pressure's on me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I'm glad you feel the pressure. Yeah, that's what this is all about, clearly.
Excellent, excellent.
Cool.
So what do we got on the agenda today? What would make what would let me ask you something. Let me ask
Okay.
you, since I actually, so those that are listening, I have no idea what this is about, which I actually really like. And neither does Deborah. See, that what makes it really cool, to be able to get on calls like this and chat and go, let's see where it takes us. I mean, before we even press record, she said, I have an hour booked. It might be a half an hour call. There might be an hour. It might even go longer. We'll see how it plays out. That's how magic happens, in my world. So that's great.
Oh, so you said you were going to ask me something.
I did. So,
Have you
um,
forgotten?
no, yeah, that's my brain for you. What I was going to say is, when people are, what's your goal for the people that are listening? Like,
Okay, so for me, I see you and the other people that I have had these conversations with out in the world doing really good things in their, in many, many different ways. I see people doing really inspiring, wonderful things. And I kind of think, yeah, I'd like to have a conversation with you. For to be honest, a little bit of it is I would like to have a conversation with you. I would like
yeah, that's fair.
yeah, a little bit of maybe, I don't know, find out a little bit more about you, see what gold there is in there that I can take away from these conversations. And I also know that when we do that and we put them out for other people, the goal there is for other people to hear gold in these conversations too. So it is, it feels like a win-win-win, really. Like you say, it's a great conversation for all of us. I think there is so much all of us have got to share it. There's no one better, there's no one more spiritual, there's no one, it's not like everything. So if you tell us, we'll all hail the great Amir or anyone. It is very much like we all have something magical inside us. But it just feels to me when we hear things in other people, things wake up or resonate or something happens in us. So it's kind of that for me. It's like, let's have these conversations to see who we do tap on the shoulder, who we do wake up, who is like, whoa, I didn't know that before.
I, you know, I have a quick story on that. So
Yeah.
I worked at a recovery center for over 5 years, did a ton of talks. And when I first started, there's something called the three principles that were uncovered by a man named Sydney Banks, for those that may or may not know. I was so excited to go to this recovery center and teach all this. So what I would do is I'd get in there and I'd have my charts and graphs and like quotes from Sydney Banks or Michael Neal or some of the other three principles practitioners. And one day I realized I really was trying to be spiritual and it was not working. And so it was about the third or fourth class I went in and I'm like, you guys, I really messed up. I'm so nervous to make you guys get this idea about like how your life's going to change and all this stuff. And then I'm like, but I came out of this insecurity and I screwed up and I want to apologize to you guys. And something really cool happened. One of the people raised their hands in the class and they said, it's really cool to see you're one of us. Like, you came in here, tried to impress us, didn't work, you screwed up, and you're insecure. And I kind of got in with them because when I was at the recovery center, I don't have a background in psychology. I don't have a background in rehab, or I've never been an addict. So here I was going to share some magical thing to a group of people where I've never really associated in that space ever in my life. So, and one thing that I realized is that, like you mentioned, there's something really extraordinary just being ordinary, and there's something really valuable that I saw, that like when I dropped all the crap, like stuff started to happen that was a lot more juicier than when you think that if you do it a certain way, or if you show up a certain way, that's where the magic is going to be. So I've learned to unlearn a lot of things, I should say. So
Yeah.
so I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's really lovely. And it is this whole not making ourselves, like, we all have our stories, we all have our things that we have done, we have things, that we do know, experiences we've had that are so useful to share. But it isn't about, certainly this, a spiritual journey for me, an inward journey, is more about sharing the fact of insight, the fact that there is something
Yeah.
amazing inside all of us. And so in any way, it's kind of like, yeah, I have this amazing thing inside me that I found. It has to be inside you. This is kind of how I found it. This is my best. I'll bumble around and tell you what worked, what was helpful. Bumble around with me and see what happens with you.
You know what? That's a great way to put it. I call it the equal opportunity spirituality. Like, it doesn't matter how you grew up, how much money you have, where you're from. It works the same way for everyone. It's like everyone has this light inside of them, like you mentioned. And and funny enough, I used to think if I was polished, it's like in the bumbling is where the stuff starts to kind of emerge. It's not when it's polished. It's like when you drop all that, and all of a sudden it's one soul speaking to another soul. And if you look at it from that space, it is messy. It's chaotic sometimes. It's one minute you're laughing, and one minute you're crying, one minute you're sitting still, and one minute you're babbling. And in all of that, there's something deeper that shows up, that goes beyond, as they say in the three principles community, beyond the words. And I've learned to be, and that's why in the beginning of our talk I said I can't wait to see what shows up. I'm actually really comfortable in that space where I used to hate it. I used to take all these public speaking courses and learn how to match and mirror all this stuff, and it just stopped making sense to do all
Mhm.
that, because it's like, what a shame that we put all these ideas around us when who we are is actually pretty magnificent, right? And so it's been a fun journey. I'm 45 years old, and I'm sure I have, you're on 60 conversations for your 60th, is that right? So I'm sure there's plenty and you're like, oh, you're 45, you're still a child. Wait until you hit
Baby, you're still a baby.
a baby. So I'm sure I'm gonna see a new chapter, a new, new leaf's gonna turn, and I can't wait. But it's just such a fun ride to be me and to be able to be available to the best of my ability as much as I can.
Yeah, I totally love that. And that, to me, I mean, my business is called Dare to Be You, because what I can see is, for different reasons, but I completely lost myself and then hid behind an idea of who I thought I should be. And then, when I was with other people, it would be like, who do you need me to be? How is it I need to be? And anything that I was doing, it would be questioning, like you say, am I polished enough? Am I good enough? Am I saying the right words? And what does this person think? What are they thinking about that? And really seeing all of that just got in the way of love and connection.
Yes. That's absolutely right. And you know what? Sometimes I like to be the business owner or the coach or the leader. And the difference now is, it's like when my daughter she loves when we go out to the parks and she sees a little baby. My daughter's 8 years old, and she'll do peekaboo with them,
Mm,
but they know it's a game, and they know that, all right, she didn't really disappear. She's right there, and she's playing a game, right? And it's like, I think that's where we get muddled, is when we forgot it's a game. And it's not like, if you go and become a leader somewhere and you fail to be a leader, that in of itself is a sort of leadership, right? Like this idea that this failing, and we're going to mess it up. Like, people don't take into account the messing up, the failing, and screwing it up is part of the amazing thing that we're trying to become, or who we are. And I think that this idea, I do coaching, is people come in and say, how do I screw up teaching it less? Or how do I become a better coach and become more polished? I'm like, no, the screw up part is who you want to show people. That's actually where you're going to get more of an oomph in your business, or more oomph in your coaching. Or like, how do I do it where, if how do I show up not as nervous on a call? I'm like, be nervous on a call, have anxiety on a call, have depression, and show up and show them how you can coach in depression. Like, people need to see the real you. Like, this idea that we need to go and become someone else in order to, is as a big con game that we've been taught. And I don't know what, I guess, we're with social media, and the way that whole ideas of how to be a polished this and that. It's like, I'm in the unpolished business. I'm in the business of showing the rawness of us, and it's a lot less work, because we just, I say, if there's a distinction, it's the difference between being truthful and being useful. Like, there's a lot of people that I want to be very useful, and it turns out being truthful is the most useful thing that people will probably need. It's not the other way around.
mm. Yeah, we ran a training once, and we had a group of people, and we started chatting, and I can't remember, but somebody said something about, like, oh, I'm feeling really anxious about this or something, and then someone else said, yeah, and me. And one by one, every person in the room was like, yeah, and me, including me. It was like, yeah, and me. And then the whole theme of the weekend was everything we came. It was like, yeah, and me. And there's some version. We all feel that, when,
Yeah,
like you say, it's not. And when we give people this idea that there is somewhere that we are going to get to, where that we're never going to be like that, we're going to be different somehow. It's like, well, I'm 60 now and I haven't got there. And I can remember when my grandma was well into her 90s. I remember having a conversation with her, and she's sort of saying, yeah, I'm still waiting to grow up and feel different. She's not
right.
she's like well into her 90s at this point. I'm having this conversation. She's like, yeah, I still don't feel like a grown up. I still don't feel different. I still feel this same. And it's like, yeah, that's what this is. And in a way, it is knowing that, like you say, that's okay. That is okay. That's what it is. And when we have this, I see in all of it, like with relationships and everything, it's like, it's now, it's in this moment. It's not, oh yeah, I'm going to work on this, and in 6 weeks or 6 months I'm going to have this great relationship. It's like, no, I'm going to go out, this, my partner's actually home today, and I'm going to like go out of this room and give him a hug. Our great relationship is now. It's not in a
That's
month
right.
or in a week or in something when I've done something. It's now, with all the realness of it. There's not a future or something we're going to get to.
Yeah. And there's going back to the recovery center, you just reminded me, I came in showing up as me enough times where, after, like, after that day when I just stopped trying to do the song and dance of how I'm going to be sharing the principles or sharing spirituality, and I just showed up, and my first thing would be, ladies and gentlemen, I'm exhausted today. At the time I had a baby. She was 8. She's 8 now, but she was 1 and 2 years old at the time. And I would say, I didn't sleep, you guys. So if I screw up today, just bear with me. And then, like, the next day, my work, something happened at work, and I'd be like, you guys, employee got fired today. My brain's kind of out of all over the place. Someone pulled me aside, and they said, you know, I want to thank you, Amir. And I said, what's the thank you for? And they said, you know, this is the only hour. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not a deadbeat dad. I'm not the family member that nobody likes. He's like, I can just be me for that hour with all my screw ups, and I can come in here and have a Me Too moment with somebody. Because when I leave here, it's like, well, how was the recovery center? Are you getting better? Are you working on yourself? Are you? And it's like here, it's like, you don't have to do that. You can come in and I had a terrible day. This happened. Oh, me too. I'm anxious today. And sorry if I like forget some things. Me too. It's like it was like the original Me Too movement. It was like in my recovery center because that does it's like a concert, right? Like the reason concerts, the reason churches, the reason comedy stores are places we want to go because we're all in unison. Like we go to comedy stores and we all laugh together. We go to church and we all pray together, or we connect together with the music, or we go to concerts and the same kind of thing. And there's, you know, we don't have to go to big events to feel that. Like you said, like there's moments where you're with just a couple people and you have a Me Too moment, like, oh, I'm there too. And we all connect. And that becomes a starting point and an ending point for a lot of us, right? It's like, where do we go from here? I don't know. What do we do in this space? It's a really, really humanizing space. And I feel like we've missed that. It's like walking in nature. We just don't do that often anymore because again, like, you know, with social media, everyone sees the best part of themselves or best parts of other people, and they're on the beach and they're working out, they're smiling with their husbands and wives. And I want to know when the camera's off. That's where I want to know is what's really happening, what's happening behind the scenes, because that's what excites me. And how are you guys amending things? How are you guys figuring things out? What happens when it's when there is a lot of thinking in your space? How do you guys navigate that? And I think that that would be, maybe we should create a social media where you can only show the things that aren't perfect. That'd be cool. That's what you're like. If it looks too good, you can, it gets deleted or it gets like removed or something. That'd be an amazing, amazing, cool little.
Yeah. And that I mean, the whole Me Too thing, you know, yeah, I just think there's this idea that we can't be like that. And I like, okay, so interestingly, as I said to you as we got on this call, I've been away over the weekend. We ran a silent retreat over the weekend, which was just beautiful. I came home, a lady came back with me. So I had a day with this lady, and then there's all sorts going on. I'm building a house at the moment. My partner and I have bought a plot of land and we're building a house, and there's all sorts going on there. So I was there for a bit. And then I looked at my diary and it's like, oh, I'm on with Amir. And I was quite excited about it because I was like, yeah, cool. I really want to speak to this guy. This is really great. And then I went upstairs and I was like, your hair just looks terrible. Your hair looks really, really awful. You haven't had time to do your hair, to sort it out at all. You know, I normally sort of, I've got a lot of curls and my hair
But
like,
it's better than my hair. You're good.
and this is it. You know, I when I first knew of you, you had quite a lot of hair, and I've heard you sort of say when you came back, there was something about, yeah, the hair all went because I'm losing my hair or whatever. But again, it's this idea, isn't it? You know, I went upstairs and I looked in the mirror, I thought, shit, I haven't got time to do anything. Your hair looks terrible. And I was like, okay, just shove it all up, do whatever. Okay, cool. Just get on there and just do it. And I know that very often for me, certainly in the early days, actually making videos, I'd be really nervous about what I was saying, or, you know, I'd be having this conversation and then I would look and I think, oh my God, what will people be thinking about that, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, well, they'll think what they think.
Yeah. They'll think what they'll think.
And I had so many years, for me, the whole control thing about the whole idea of who I had to be. And I'm guessing that maybe there was some of this in, like, when you went into the recovery center and you're polished and all this whole idea of, if I get this right, if I show up right
Yeah.
and look right and say the right thing and do the right thing, all these people will like me, and this will all work out in this, you know, all these people will think what I think they should think if I get this right. Some kind of version of that going on. And it's just like, it's totally bonkers. We're just, we're never going to do that. It's never going to work. And so it's just like, do you know what?
It's,
Just show up.
you know, I had this insight when I was at the recovery center that how can I tell them not to pretend who they are when I'm coming here pretending who I am?
Yeah.
Here I am doing a song and dance, telling them they don't need to do a song and dance. And it just one day popped into my head. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like here I am trying to tell them you're everything. You don't have to be somebody. You can be yourself. And funny enough, I shared that exact story. Like I owe you guys an apology. Here I am sharing this gifts of that it's already inside of us, and I'm not buying it right now because I'm trying to impress you. I'm trying to do all this stuff. And those are the times where people just have a like you can see them, their breath, they exhale, and it's this exhale of like, whew, I can just I don't have to pretend for this moment. And it's like, and so I came with this distinction, if there's this coaching distinction that, in the coaching world, it's meet people where they're at. And I've actually realized that's not what I'm really, when I'm effective. It's when I meet myself where I'm at. When I meet myself where I'm at, then people will see that I'm not there to change them, to figure them out. Like I'm just centering myself. And in that centering, they see what's available for them. And so, like, if someone's like, there were times where people had episodes in my recovery center. Like, I didn't start going into like, well, I better meet them where they're at and start having an episode or anything. Like, just like they saw my calmness. They saw that it's okay to see where they're at. It's so, and something, and I saw that over and over enough times where I got really comfortable to not have to be somebody else ever in the recovery center. Then I'm like, but it goes beyond the recovery center. Like that's important with my wife. It's important with my staff at my restaurant. It's important with my daughter. Like I don't have to, okay, I'm going to be the father today. It's like, no, just be a good human being for the love of God, and the father role shows up how it shows up from that space of love. The leadership role shows up how it shows up from that space of like connection. The like husband role shows up from that place of security. Like we have it backwards. We think we need to find security in order to find how love looks like in order to. It's like the tools are secondary to what's available. The tools are what shows up with your availability. And it's a constant reminder for me because I'm here saying it to you like, oh, of course this is how it is. Of course we get off the phone. If my wife's downstairs, she's like, oh, you're saying your coachy stuff again. Can you maybe practice some of that with me? Like she would, if she heard you said silent retreat, she's like, can you do a silent retreat at our house with you just shutting your mouth for 4 days? That would give her a lot of a peace, I'm sure. Um, so it's like I'm saying all this with as much grace as I can because this is just a reminder over and over again. And what I like about these, Deborah, like even this call, because the original time you told me, hey, let's do a podcast, I wasn't doing podcasts. I was actually I got offered a ton, and I wasn't in that headspace. And then I remembered, one of the things that these are valuable for me is I hear myself and I hear some of the bullshit I say sometimes, and I go, but a lot of it is just a reminder for me that I really should like practice what I preach. So when I get off this call, I will get back into being centered and I will get back to being loving. And sometimes it just takes me speaking to someone to kind of bring it back out into the world.
Very much for me, one of the reasons that I am doing these calls, I've had some really, really beautiful calls like this, some gorgeous calls with people, some really lovely conversations. And it's reminded me, the reason that I do what I do is for myself first and foremost, to walk my own talk, to be like, yeah, okay. And I know one of the things that has always been really important to me is when I share something, I like to share from something that I know from my own experience. It's like I know this is possible because I've played with this and seen it in myself. And so then it's an invitation to play in that way and see what happens. Because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know this is true because I've done it in some way, shape, or form. it's like, yeah, I've had that experience, so I know that there's some truth there. And it's like, yeah, play as well. So walking the talk. I know, in the three principles world, one of the things, when you learn about the role of thought and everything like this, and then we have this idea, well, yeah, that's just your thinking. And everyone kind of puts their hands up in there, don't, you would never say to anyone, well, that's just your thinking. So I came across the principles and I'm sharing some bits and pieces. And my partner wasn't really a bit like you just said with your wife, he would hear me say things and hear me stuff and everything. And then, we'd get into something or something had happened and he'd just turn around and he would just say to me, well, isn't that just your thinking? Because he could break all the three principles rules because he's not a part of the community or any of that.
Exactly. Right.
He could totally, and I would get upset about, well, isn't that just your thinking? And interestingly, I found that incredibly helpful because he would say that to me and I'd think, well, yeah,
Actually.
yeah, actually, you've got a point. Yeah, you've got a point. So this whole rule the golden rule that we're not allowed to break, you don't say to anyone, well, that's just your thinking. It's, he was doing that to me. Well, every time I got caught in my thinking, I guess.
That's amazing. He's like, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But it worked. He was trying. That's so funny.
It was super cool because it really got me to a place of, walk your talk. Actually, if you are with someone and you can see that person, even if it is not and I wouldn't say it's just your thinking in that way, but the whole, there is actually some truth in that. If I get past the being a little bit, angsty with him for saying something like that, it's like, you've got a point. And I can see when I am with other people and looking, it's kind of like, if you were thinking about that in a different way, or you didn't have that thinking, this would be a different experience. So then it's like, okay, what can you do with that? Knowing what you know, what can you do with it? And surprisingly, it really actually popped me out of it a lot of the times. It'd be like,
that's amazing. There you go. Yeah. I think that's the like walking the talk versus talking about the walk, right? Like a lot of people um philosophize this stuff and then they feel guilty when they're in their thinking, or they shouldn't be as much in their thinking. It's like that's what's beautiful about this is we're prone to the same exact thing that we're discussing. It's just, the goal is that we are a little kinder to ourselves, a little bit more kind, a little bit more gentle when it's available and when we see it. It turns out I do get to see it, for the most part, a lot more than I used to. It turns out that my life's become more gentler than it used to be. And there are times where I forget, but when I remind myself, I pop myself back up. It's not something that it's like the most ordinary revolutionary thing that I've ever experienced. And it's like very difficult to describe until someone starts to see it. And I love it because like you said, you still will have the moments where your husband will catch you or you'll catch yourself. And that doesn't go away. That's part of the human experience. And I think that's where I think the principles does a good amount of talking around that. I think that's what it's really cool about this, where it's not a 3-step system to get rid of. It's like a 3-step system to remind yourself you're going to feel like crap, and then it's going to get better, and then it's going to go up, and it's going to go down, and you're going to go through the human condition, so to speak. So
yeah. And I love being human. I really enjoy being human. As I said, we've recently bought this a building plot, a little plot of land, because I've always wanted to build my own house, and I managed to talk my partner into it. He's a little bit, sometimes he's kind of like, how the hell did you convince me this was a good idea? Because we're physically doing as much of the build as we can do as well, and we're in the process at the moment. We're going to live in a big, but like a static caravan. We're going to live on site as we're building. And the amount of stuff, like, it's all very well sitting, just kind of meditating and what have you, and not interacting in life and doing all these things. But, we phone up for deliveries of stone because we need that to create a base for the caravan, and then somebody doesn't turn up or some, and it's like, I love being in life. I love I love interacting with people and being in life, and then kind of coming back. So what difference does it make to you when you actually understand the role that thought is playing and how much this is thought created? What difference does that make when somebody who says they're going to be there and they're not there, and that means
Right.
this next thing isn't going to happen, and this it's not all going to work out the way that you thought it was that day? But I love playing that game. I love it.
You know what's interesting? Like on a side note, there is there's a weird, and I don't want to say this in a way that it sounds strange, but it's going to sound strange, is there's an enjoyment now for me when I'm in different states of mind. Like there's a moment because I'm kind of knowing that this is going to be a short-sighted thing that I'm like, I'm gonna actually enjoy being angry for a minute. Like I'm gonna like play in the space and see what. Look, musicians and actors do it all the time. They get themselves like a musician will write their best like song when they're in their lowest state of mind. So they've learned how to navigate in the dark. They've learned how to navigate in a space because they're not afraid of it. And I think there's a tremendous value in that. And so now it's like instead of like, oh no, I'm anxious, it's ooh, I'm anxious. Like, how does Amir show up anxious, and what does he do? Like, does he like fumble around? Oh, look, he. It's almost like it's someone threw me in an acting scene, but I don't have control of the scene. I'm kind of like kind of have control, but I don't. And so like, it's it's it's. I mean, I guess that's what hallucinogenics do. Like, it's almost like you're hallucinating. You have a bartender in there concocting some stuff and saying, here's some things we're going to throw in there. Now your serotonin levels are down, your dopamine levels are up, or whatever it's happening. And now I'm in this concoction that I'm that kind of thrown into. And it's fascinating to be in that space where before I spent a tremendous amount of time trying to get out of the space I was in, a tremendous amount. I mean, if you looked at my bookcase, it was like 10 ways to get rid of anxiety, how to treat depression, how to do this. And it was like, it never occurred to me that, like, what happens if you stick around in that space? Now, granted, you know, I had taken a drug that got me really, really depressed and suicidal. I didn't like being in that space for a long time, but even still, and again, this is my experience. It was fascinating for my brain to give me suicidal thoughts, knowing I didn't want to kill myself. Like I did not want to kill myself, but I had those thoughts, and it was very interesting. The doctor told me that this drug can change your genetic makeup in your brain to cause you to have those. And knowing that, yeah, it's fascinating. It's a drug called finasteride. So if there's any men watching, do not take finasteride. It's a terrible drug. Um, but it 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 was a ride that I never want to take again, but I was so grateful that I got to experience it. And I that for those that are listening, that might sound absolutely wacky, but that's like where I still stand on that firmly. It was so so in other words, like I handled that and I was okay. And now I'm curious, like I'm gonna have a lot more things that are gonna come my way that I'm probably not gonna enjoy, and I'm gonna try to in a weird way, maybe not enjoy it, but appreciate the headspace the best I can in that headspace that I'm in or I'm going to be in.
There was something in that you said that really struck something in me, and that's when you said, when you talked about actors and things, or musicians, and that they had learned not to be afraid of being in that space. And I remember, I like reading the Bible. I'm not religious, but I enjoy the scripture, and I
Yeah.
think there are some amazing things in it. And one of a real message that I get over and over again when I read the Bible is, do not be afraid. That, like, it's, this is okay. Don't be scared. And I remember that hitting me. And when you were saying that, it's like, yeah, all of this can be happening, But if you are not afraid of it, and like when you were saying, if you're anxious, if you're not afraid of what is going on, yeah, I'm just anxious. There's nothing to be scared of here. I'm
Right.
just anxious. And you can really see. And I think that is one of the things that the principles really gave to me, and understanding, yeah, my mind is doing this. And like when you talked about that drug and sort of saying, I'm having these suicidal thoughts at time, I don't want to actually kill myself, but I'm
Right.
having these thoughts. And I think that's what the principles help me to understand. I'm having these thoughts saying that I'm a useless person, I'm a terrible person, no one will all of this. And it's like, yeah, it's no more true than when you're saying, you're having, oh, you want to kill yourself, kill yourself. It's like, there's nothing to be scared of with this
Right.
thinking, and it's just not true, and it will pass. Because you can see the made up nonsense of it, because with nothing being any different, you can feel useless, as if you're worthless, or you want to commit suicide, or any of these kinds of things. And then with nothing changing, you can have a totally different thought and think and feel something different.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the system that we have been born into. And when we realize, yeah, that is the system, and we do not have to be afraid of the system we are born into. Don't run away from it and hide from it. Understand it and
Yeah.
know it, and realize that there isn't anything to be afraid of. And I think that is a huge game changer. Almost sort of like, yeah, I might feel like that sometimes, but if I don't accept the invitation to be frightened of that, then it's really different. Like I say, when it's just like, yeah, this is happening, but I don't need to be terrified.
Yeah, it's how I say, like, it's the therefore. It's like I have suicidal thoughts, and therefore I need to take action. It's like, no, I have suicidal thoughts. There's no therefore,
Yeah.
right? And
Mm.
so like I have anxiety. And the people that are in my recovery center, that were in my recovery center, once they learn that, like, they can have thought, or I shouldn't say they could, they will have thought. And as long as they don't dabble in the therefore, like, even people that are in jail, the only difference between us and people in jail is they acted on their thought. They went to the therefore. I feel like this because of my wife, or because of this guy looked at me funny. Therefore, I need to attack him. I need to do this. I need to do that. It's like, you don't have to do the therefore. And no one's ever really told me that.
Yeah.
It's like, you feel something that's surely telling you that you need to act, right? Like, there are certain things that will allow us to act. Like, if my house is burning, right? Like, there's a natural instinct that's instinct, right? Like, there is no thinking in that point.
Mm.
You just go and do it. Like, if there's any availability of a thought where you're like, should I, you're already in some sort of thought that you don't have to act on.
Mm.
That to me is a distinction, right?
Yeah.
There's this difference. Even with hunger, like, if I'm asking myself, am I really hungry? Maybe I'm not. That's very different than, I need to eat. Yeah, I need. There's a very big distinction. It's like we see it all the time with, I mean, hunger, thirst, and all sorts of other, like, if I'm am I really sleepy? It's like, you don't choose that. When you're tired, you get knocked out.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
to bed. But if you're asking yourself, you're probably not as sleepy as you may or may not think, right? Because
Mm.
it's like, it's a thought that was generated that you're acting on. And that's why when you're like, maybe I should go to bed, and you sit there and you can't go to bed, you're like, no, this is not working. It's like, now you're trying to act on a thought that you thought that was in your control. And so that's been a really cool thing, because, man, that was a job I wasn't getting paid for, and I was working overtime. It was the worst job to have, because it's like, I'm managing things out there and I'm managing things in here, but the things in here don't clock in, don't clock out, don't go to an office, and you can't catch them and you can't fire them. And it's so elusive. I just went, I'll leave that up to somebody else, whoever else wants to take control of that, whoever, if it's God, by all means, God. If it's whoever it is, I don't know who that is, but it's not, it's out of that's not even in my control. So yeah, it's been a really, really, that's been probably the biggest shift for me, because
Mm.
I'm a, as many of us, we think that control is the way towards a better life or happiness or this and that. And it's like, it's actually the other way around.
Yeah, the exact opposite. Yeah, just
Yeah.
not. Yeah. Mhm. So there's something that, as you said, I did actually ask you to have one of these conversations when I very first started them in the summer, and for various reasons, like, yeah, that didn't come about, and then like this time, bish bash bosh, and here we are. So
Yeah.
that's really great. And one of the things that you said was, yeah, you were taking a step back at this moment, and I know now you've actually decided to step back into a bit of the coaching industry or
Yeah.
something, whatever it is. I'd really love you to, I don't know. I'm really interested in that. So what was it that got you to come back? What are you? I'm a part of the group that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's really great fun. As I said, one of the reasons that I reached out to you and I find you inspiring is I am very much I like having fun. I like doing what I
Yeah.
like to do. And it's not that I don't, when you're building your house, there are moments like, I have literally slogged on some days. So it's not about not hard work, but it's like, this is inspiring. I want to do it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm hearing in that, in what you're doing now, it's like, yeah, there's something here I want to do. So I would love you to tell us a little bit about what's going on for you with that. Where are you going with this?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So what I know, I get direct messages and emails like constantly. I know the principles, I know coaching. I'm having trouble getting clients. I'm having trouble with this. How do you do this? How do you enroll? Like all the typical questions. And I realized these are people that have been in the coaching community for a very long time, that have done programs, that have done uh, read books. And I'm like, why is there still a disconnect for people? Right? Why are people still struggling to not necessarily get a coaching client, but even just get in on a phone call, on a call like this? Like, pick up the phone or email and say, hey, get on my podcast or get on this and just ask. And there's a sense of fear. There's a sense of insecurity for many of us. There's a sense of disconnect. And like you and I have been talking for the last 45 minutes, it's like if people realized how much easier it actually is, it's when you drop all that stuff. And
Yeah.
so I I created this like framework, and I'm telling you this right now before I've told the group. The framework is called the stupid framework, and I came up with it like I was coming up with like setting up the table, and then the second one, the TU is thought up, and we'll talk about what thought up is in my group, but it's basically dropping everything and connecting from that space and seeing what happens, because even when people say, yeah, that's what I do, they're not really doing it.
Yeah.
And there are things that you can do to navigate the conversation from a very connected space, because it's like, it's the principles, because it's so, there is no container. It's so open that sometimes people just have this good feeling and they talk, and both sides want to take it further and say like, hey, this was really valuable. This side, the side that's like sharing the principles, feels like, oh, now I don't want to like ask for anything, or I don't want to say, let's do this together, or whatever it is. And so it gets sticky for a lot of people. I've been able to have some success sharing at a recovery center, from volunteering there for them to actually pay me to share the principles. I've had success in businesses where I get asked to go to businesses and they pay me to share, my coaching and the principles. And I've had a lot of one-on-ones, and none of it ever felt sleazy. None of it ever felt like I'm doing myself or them a disservice. And I finally said, at some point, me and my partner, Ankush, if you know Ankush, he's doing really amazing stuff. When I say partner, business partner, he's doing amazing stuff in the UK. And we may in the future, actually, we will. We're going to create the most amazing school. He wants to bring it to the States, and we want to do that together. But I told Kush, I want people to thrive before they come here. In other words, I don't want it to be where they come in and say, well, I have no money. I'm now in debt. And, this is going to be the magic thing. I'm like, you know what? I'll tell you what, I'm going to offer things for free. I'm going to give a lot of the stuff away. I want people to create enough clients that when they go to the school, I'm doing it backwards. When they go to the school, they've already made the funds. If they want to go to the school, it's almost like something that I've always wanted to do, which is like, I want to put my money where my mouth is. Like, I want you to thrive first, and then I'm going to ask for something versus here, I'm going to give some stuff away. If you pay me, then you're going to learn all this stuff. And so this has been an experiment for me because I've been out of the game online so long. I want to
Mhm.
see if I can actually get people in a community. I want to see if I can enroll people. So I'm actually doing the very thing that I'm teaching in real time. So this experiment's been really neat for me because I get to see what's working and not working and share the things that's working with my group in real time and also share what's not working in real time as I'm doing the very thing I want the people that are in my group to do. So it's like this meta coaching thing. And so it's like been really enlightening for me because if I become like I just wrote a post in my group that it said, I made this video and I really liked it and I posted it. And as soon as I posted, I'm like, this is not the direction I want to go in this group. So I removed it. And
I
I
didn't
and
see
so
that.
oh well you didn't good. Well
I missed
I,
out.
I removed it and I wrote about it and I said it didn't jive with me and I feel like this went to cheesy marketing and and it's like copywriting and that's not what I want the group to be about. And so my goal is how I'm going to, so here's a way I'm going to make, you want to know how I'm going to make money on this? I'm going to charge people. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give everything away. And then I'm going to have 3 or 5 Zoom calls where we're going to dive into the stupid method, dive into your specific thing. If you're a coach, if you're struggling, record it. It's going to be live, but the recordings I'm going to charge for. That's it, for a low price, not some $10,000 course and all that. And I'm going to give away a 30-minute call with me that will be specific to what you want to do, and a masterclass that I did for Ankush's that blew them away that I'm going to give away for free. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do for now. And then if it occurs to people that they want to work with me more, they'll work with me. In other words, like, I want no resistance. I want it to be exciting for me, and I want it to be exciting for people that are on the other side. Why I want it to be exciting for both of us is that when it's all said and done with what I'm doing, I want them to feel the coach. I want them to experience the excitement of creating a group or making calls, and know that how they feel as a client should feel amazing. So when they have their clients, they know that it's going to feel amazing for them. So it's like I'm allowing them to be both sides, so they can see
Yeah.
the experience from both ends, to know that it's amazing on both sides. Like, you can be on both sides and feel absolutely clean, good, and pure in the process versus the next program, the next program, the next program. And that's my intent. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to play out, but so far it's had a good
Yeah.
response, and people like you and people that I really adore, appreciate, and value are in there. So I know I'm on the right track. So that's good.
Yeah. So far it's been great. Yeah. I've really enjoyed it. And definitely for me, there was one. I've been away all over the weekend, so I don't know if anything happened there. And I missed the video that you put up and took down. I didn't see that, so now I
Well,
feel
good.
that's fine. Um, but I know when I joined the group, it was kind of like, okay, do the stuff then. Just take part and do it
Yeah.
for fun, for the fun of it. Just do it. And there was just before the weekend, there was something you put thing and said, all right, okay, so make a video about something you would say for another coach. And I watched my head kind of go, oh my gosh, can you do that? Can you just make a video and put a video in there? But it's really fascinating, isn't it? See it, and it's like, well, yeah, you can. So just do it. Don't have any,
Yes.
because this whole idea of
Yes.
for me, something very recently has shifted. I've seen from personally, I saw this for my whole life, I've had this idea that if I get it right, it will be okay. And if I don't get it right,
Right.
that's when things go wrong. And I had no idea that that was something that was running for me. Um, until it started to fall away, until I started to see
Wow.
through it. And
Yeah.
then it was like, oh my gosh. And what I saw as a therefore from that, I can see it from childhood and everything. There's this idea that there is a right and wrong way to do anything and everything. And I've either got it right. And so if people aren't doing it the same way as me, they're wrong.
They're doing it wrong. Yeah.
Or I'm getting it wrong, and these other people have got to get it, are getting it right, and I've got to work that out. And you know what? It's exhausting to live from somewhere
Oh,
like that.
absolutely.
And then to watch it fall away. And part of it has been, you know, that invitation to make a video. It's like, well, if you can't get it wrong. And then I watch my head kind of going, oh, you know, what will Amir think? Who else might listen to it? What will they think? And you know, you hear somebody else's video, oh my gosh, they got a way better idea than me.
Right, right.
Stupid, I shouldn't have shared that idea. And it's like, well, yeah, what if you don't have to take any notes of that either? You know, maybe some people might think your idea's out the park. Other people might think, yeah, stupid idea. So what? Just doesn't matter.
That's
Just yeah.
just do it. And you know what? Like while you're saying that, I was going, me too, me too. Like I was like, I'm running this group, but like your video was better, like Michael Fall's video, and I'm like, crap. And so that was cool for me because I'm like, you know what? You don't have it's so nice to have an imperfect, perfectly done video. And not only that, I think the thing for me with why I created the group, the bigger picture is like, you know, once you're in a coaching community, you start getting on, especially on social media, like 10x your business and be a zillionaire and do all this. There are people that just want to have one or two clients. There are people that want to have just a small package and they don't want to charge much. There's people that want to volunteer and they want to know how to get into a space and offer themselves without even charging. Or in other words, like this isn't a space for like big coaching packages. If you want to do it, you can. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But what I want you to be able to be comfortable with is being comfortable in your own skin, knowing you have something incredible to share, whether it's for money or whether it's for free or whatever it is. Because people that are in this coaching industry, like me, I got burnt out by the sleaze and the marketing and the like, you got to go out there and just go everywhere at all times. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. And you can do it in a fun, compassionate, ethical way. Because like what you're doing, right? You're doing this podcast. I mean, for selfish reasons, maybe for whatever. But I will tell you, what, if it impacts one person, I know that's going to matter for you. I know that. And that's where I'm at in my life now. I'm at the stage where I'm not, my mass impact is going to happen one person at a time. Whereas before I thought I had to go and blast myself like a spray. And if, you know, I can just make, you know, like go around the world like I'm going to be Jesus and like, it's my job to change the world in that respect. And I realized that I'm in it for the long game. And if I can do the ripple effect instead of the spraying, which is we have a talk and someone passes this talk to someone else and that helps someone else, that gives me comfort to know that I've done something good. And so this group is my ripple. It's like I'm giving it away. Sure, I'm going to show you that I'll make some money off of it, but I'm showing you that because that when you give me money, you're going to be like happily giving me money the same way your clients are going to happily give you money. It's a option for them if they want to do further coaching, but that's all it is. It's not dirty. It's not weird. And that ripple effect, I hope, lasts long enough for people that have something to share will be able to share it with confidence, with value, with connection, and with love. And if I've done that, then I've done my job. So
yeah, I think that is beautiful. And I can see there are so many genuine people in a space that have got something really beautiful and genuine to share, who are too fearful to do that.
yes,
And then we get into like the marketing space, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to market it in this certain way that isn't me, that isn't how I want to talk about it.
right.
Like um we run an annual conference here in North Devon, and we've done it 5 times. And when in the room, oh my gosh, it is so lovely. It's just, the space in there is beautiful. The people that come get impacted. It's really, really gorgeous. And I know when I first started it, I just had this idea about the way that I was trying to market it and tell people about it. It was exactly, you know, I'd listen to some marketing things. Oh, you've got to say all this stuff and you've got to do all this. And the two things, just what the conference was, what happened in the room, and how I was trying to sell it, the two things, they were different energies. It just wasn't, it
Yeah.
wasn't coming together. And this last time, it happens in March every year. And this sort of coming up to the conference before March just gone, I just had all these realizations again about this whole right and wrong and all this. And it's just like, it actually happened. I was sat at the table with Beck, my niece and my amazing PA. I was sat with her and we were talking about the conference, and we were talking about business in general. And we'd made banana cake earlier, and there was some banana cake on the side. So we're in the middle of this conversation. So I get up. No, it's actually Beck. Beck got up and she sort of cut herself a slice of this cake, and she just said, "Oh, Deb, do you want some banana cake?" And I thought about it and I went, "Yeah, no, not right now, but thanks." And I just had this moment when she did this, and I was like, that's all marketing is. It's just, no, it was such, she just said, "Oh, Deb, do you want banana cake?" It would have been rude of her not to offer, because she's getting lots to have
Absolutely.
some of this banana cake. And I just thought about it and I thought, in this moment, no. But then later on, I absolutely had some banana cake. And ever since that moment, that was kind of what I went into the conference. Then it's like, I have got this really beautiful banana cake. It is amazing banana cake. And if you like banana cake, you're really going to love
Yeah.
this. And it was
Yes.
just like, it would be rude not to tell people about it. But I'm not going to, you know, Beck didn't come over to me. Beck didn't pick up a slice of that banana cake and come over to me and shove it in my face and make me have it. You know,
Right.
it's kind of like, "Do you want it? It's really nice. Do you want some?" And I was perfectly at liberty to say yes or no. And she didn't take offense that I said no. And in that moment, I was kind of like, oh, if ever anyone said no to your conference, you've thought, oh, you
Yeah.
know, God, it's like, not everybody likes banana cake. Not everybody
Exactly.
wants banana cake in this moment. And it was just so, yeah, it was a banana
I
cake moment.
love that right there. That is, folks, we can end the call. Banana cake. So if you want to hire her for banana cake marketing, let us know the link, set it up. 3-month course. I mean, it's literally, I mean, in my group, I talk about that exact thing. It's like when someone comes and enters your home, it would be disrespectful to say,
Yeah,
or just not to ask, "Can I take off your jacket? Would you like something to drink?" They may say yes or no, or "Are you hungry?" We know when someone enters our home, it's the polite thing to do is to ask. We're not asking for them to give us an answer, or it's just we're asking, and it's either going to be a yes or no, and neither of those are better or worse than another. And they might not want the drink now, but in 5 minutes they might be thirsty, and then what do? You go get them in the water. But when it then we do something called, "Oh, but this is coaching," or "But
yeah,
this is that," or "But this is my work," or "But this is I'm doing an event," and it's all banana cake and it's all glass of waters. It's all that. And so going back to why I did this group is, how wonderful would it be if people saw that it's just banana cake? Like,
yeah,
how would their coaching look if it was banana cake? How would it look if it was just me taking off someone's jacket and offering them a seat at the table? And that's, you know, we muck it up because it's so simple. Surely it can't just be that. It has to be that plus objections, and learning how to do objections, and learning how to match and mirror and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, the very thing we want to show people is, if you're principle based, that humanity is where it's at. But then we go and become inhumane when we go and have our conversations.
yeah, exactly. Because it is, like you say, if we're just offering banana cake or a glass of water or to take your coat or anything like that, we're not going to get offended really with what people say.
There's
It's
no resistance.
yeah,
There's no
it's just like,
resistance.
"Do you want this?" And yeah, so and I definitely saw a massive difference in my conference this time when I just got into a space of, you are just telling people about the best banana cake in the universe, and
That's it.
that's all you're doing. And if the people are kind of like, yeah, just banana cake's not for me, don't like it, don't want it, it's cool. And then, yeah, moving into however you work with people, it's the same, like you say. And
It's the same.
but we get into our heads and think, yeah, but this is about blah, 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 blah. And it can't be the same. But yeah, the connection is the lovely bit.
I love it.
I have really enjoyed this conversation.
I am so glad that you reached out again, and Beck reached out, and you guys did this. This was really lovely. You are amazing. I'm so glad to finally meet you in person, so to speak. And happy birthday. When is your birthday?
It was in December, so I
It's in
started.
December. Happy
Yeah.
belated. Yeah, that's when you asked me. Actually, it was well back then. Okay,
But,
so
yeah.
now we're here. So we find. Look at that. So you
Yeah.
know what? I didn't want banana cake in December, and now I had some banana cake and it was delicious. So thank you.
Exactly. And I've really seen that with these conversations as well. It's just, ask these people and then just have fun with it. And the more that you're having fun and doing this, the right people are going to say yes. And I've really seen that too. Like the timing of this, it just feels perfect. With you doing what you're doing now, this actually feels like a much better conversation than it potentially would have been.
Could have been back then. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
These things come at exactly the right moment.
Yeah. It's never good to force a miracle, and I appreciate that.
Well, I will put the links to the group that you're doing below this video, and I'll send you the link to that. Is there anything else, if people wanted to reach out to you, is there anywhere else that you would like anything else?
You can give them my email, Amir at amirkarkouti.com. I'll email you.
Yeah, cool.
They can email me if they have any questions. My website's amirkarkouti.com. I have a lot of principle-based programs on there. If there's people that are listening here that's a little bit different, right? Like you were mentioning, it's a little bit more off base and things like that, because I want to show people it doesn't have to look a certain way. And that's kind of the idea with my programs and how I share the principles. So yep, you can do that. Go to my website. And besides that, yeah, you can reach out to me anytime through my email.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.